Welcome back to Economic Crossroads, where we break down the stories shaping America's future in plain language without the noise. Here, we don't just talk about problems, we look for real answers and a way forward. Today, we're diving into a topic most people avoid: the quiet crisis facing American men. It's not about stereotypes or culture war shouting matches. It's about the real lives behind the headlines, jobs, health, relationships, and a sense of purpose. Because while our politics argue about almost everything, this issue cuts across party lines. And it's not just a men's issue, it's an American issue. 1. Why it's quiet. If you've noticed, most conversations about struggle in America center on rising costs, housing, healthcare, or mental health in general. But when it comes to men specifically, the tone changes or disappears entirely. Part of it is stigma. Men are still told directly or indirectly that talking about their struggles makes them weak. And for decades, the unwritten rule was, deal with it, keep it to yourself, and don't let anyone see the cracks. The result? A crisis that rarely gets addressed until it shows up in alarming statistics: higher suicide rates, more men dropping out of the workforce, fewer friendships, and a growing sense of isolation. 2. The numbers tell a story. Recent studies show men are lonelier than ever. Surveys reveal a sharp drop in close friendships among men over the past 3 decades. Workforce participation among prime-age men has declined steadily, leaving many disconnected from not just income, but identity. Men are less likely to seek help for mental health issues, even when they recognize something is wrong. These numbers aren't just data points, they're signs of a cultural and economic shift that's been building for years. 3. The role of economic pressure. In the past, many men tied their sense of worth to steady work, often in industries like manufacturing, construction, or trade jobs. But automation, globalization, and corporate downsizing have transformed those sectors. Now, the jobs that once offered stability and a sense of pride have vanished or changed beyond recognition. And while some adapt, others are left feeling like the economy no longer has a place for them. When work is unstable, so is identity. And when identity is unstable, everything else, relationships, health, purpose, can start to crack. 4. Why this isn't just a men's problem. It's tempting to frame this as something only affecting men, but that's short-sighted. A society where a large portion of men are disconnected, underemployed, or isolated is a society where families, communities, and economies suffer too. This crisis affects partners, children, workplaces, and neighborhoods. And ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just makes the fallout harder to manage later. 5. Why we don't talk about it. So why is it still under the radar? Cultural discomfort. Talking about men's struggles can be misread as ignoring women's struggles or as a political statement in itself. Partisan noise. Too often, men's issues get pulled into political culture wars, turning real problems into talking points. The myth of resilience. We assume men will tough it out because that's what they've always done, but that myth is breaking and the cracks are showing. Wrap up for part 1. Here's where we are. The quiet crisis among American men isn't new. It's just been easier to ignore. But in 2025, the signs are too big to miss. Loneliness, economic disconnection, and the loss of purpose are spreading in ways that affect everyone, not just men themselves. Now, we'll unpack what's driving this, how changes in work, culture, and community have built a perfect storm, and what's at stake if we keep looking away. Part 2, how we got here. 1. The changing shape of work. For decades, work was more than just a paycheck for American men. It was identity, routine, and community all rolled into one. Your job told you where you fit in the world. You might start at a factory right out of high school, work alongside the same people for years, and retire with a pension and a sense of pride in what you built. That model started breaking decades ago. Factories shut their doors. Union membership plummeted. Jobs that once paid a living wage without a college degree were outsourced, automated, or replaced with temporary contracts. In their place came a patchwork economy: gig work, delivery apps, seasonal contracts, low-wage service jobs. These jobs might keep the lights on, but they rarely come with benefits, stability, or a clear future. For men who grew up believing work was the core of their identity, losing that stability is like losing a part of themselves. It's not just about money, it's about purpose, dignity, and the belief that hard work will be rewarded. 2. The erosion of community. Work used to be just one piece of the puzzle. The other piece was community. There were bowling leagues, church picnics, union halls, and neighborhood barbecues. You didn't have to text someone to make plans. You'd see them at the local diner, the town hall meeting, or the Saturday game. Now those third places, spaces outside of home and work are disappearing. Malls have closed, local bars and diners are struggling, and even in suburbs, neighbors can live side by side for years without knowing each other's names. Technology has replaced a lot of face-to-face connection, but scrolling doesn't give you the same feeling as belonging. And for men who often struggle more than women to maintain friendships, the loss of these spaces has been devastating. 3. The mental health stigma. Even in 2025, a lot of men still feel like they're not allowed to talk about what's going on inside. The old idea that real men don't cry or don't ask for help is still alive in too many homes, workplaces, and locker rooms. Yes, the mental health conversation has grown, but the gap remains. Men are less likely to seek therapy, less likely to open up to friends, and more likely to turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms, whether that's alcohol, drugs, or simply withdrawing from everyone. And because many men keep their struggles hidden, the signs often show up too late after relationships have collapsed, health has worsened, or a crisis has hit. 4. Shifting cultural expectations. American culture has changed rapidly in the last few decades. Women have gained more economic and political power, a long overdue and necessary shift. But these changes have also scrambled the old map of what it means to be a man in America. For generations, many men were taught their worth came from being a provider, a protector, or a leader. But now, those roles aren't guaranteed, and in many families, they're shared equally. That's progress, but it also leaves some men feeling like they're standing in the middle of a bridge with no clear path forward. Without new models of healthy masculinity widely celebrated in our culture, some men feel pressure to cling to the old ways, even when those ways no longer fit the world we live in. 5. Political polarization and the no-win conversation. When men's issues make it into the national conversation, they rarely stay there for long. The topic gets sucked into the culture war machine, and suddenly, it's not about solutions, it's about scoring points. One political side might dismiss men's struggles as an exaggeration, or say, they've had it good for too long. The other might exaggerate the problem to push an agenda that doesn't actually help. Men watching this play out quickly learn, if you open your mouth, you'll get attacked from one side or the other. So they stay silent, and the real problems of loneliness, underemployment, and poor health keep growing in the shadows. 6. The technology factor. We also can't ignore technology's role. While online spaces can offer connection, they can also deepen isolation. For some men, hours spent gaming or scrolling online have replaced in-person friendships. Social media can give the illusion of connection while slowly draining motivation to meet people in real life. And for men already feeling disconnected from work or community, it can become a cycle that's hard to break, wake up, go online, go to work, go home, repeat. 7. What's at stake if we ignore this? If we keep ignoring we can make is culturally getting rid of the idea that seeking help makes you weak. Some sports teams, veterans groups, and even workplaces are starting to normalize mental health check-ins for men. Instead of waiting until someone hits rock bottom, they're building habits of talking openly about stress, anxiety, and depression. It doesn't have to mean traditional therapy for everyone. Sometimes it's a peer group, a coach, or even a trusted friend who listens without judgment. The point is creating space where men can speak without fear of being labeled less of a man. 4. New role models for a new era. The old model of masculinity, silent, stoic, and solely defined by providing, is fading. But instead of leaving a gap, we can fill it with healthier, modern examples. That could mean highlighting men who balance work and caregiving, who mentor younger people, who speak openly about failure and growth. It could mean celebrating the man who teaches his kids' soccer team just as much as the man who starts a business. When we show that strength can mean compassion, resilience, and community leadership, not just financial success, we give the next generation of men a better roadmap. 5. Turning down the political noise. Real progress won't come from screaming matches on cable news. It will come from practical, local action. Some communities are forming coalitions that ignore party labels and focus purely on solving men's issues, job retraining, mentoring programs, mental health access. When you strip away the partisan branding, it turns out people agree on more than they think. That's why this crisis can't stay stuck in the culture war. Men's struggles aren't a left-wing or right-wing problem. They're a human problem, and they demand human solutions. 6. Everyday actions that matter. You don't have to wait for a big program or government policy to make a difference. Every person can take small steps that help break the cycle of isolation. Call a friend you haven't spoken to in months. Invite someone to join a group activity, sports, volunteer work, even a regular coffee. Share job leads or training opportunities with someone who's looking. Listen without rushing to give advice. These actions may feel small, but when multiplied across neighborhoods, they rebuild the social fabric that men and all of us depend on. 7. Why hope still wins. Here's the truth. The quiet crisis is real, but it's not hopeless. We've seen other moments in history where communities rebuilt after losing jobs, purpose, or connection. It takes work, yes, but it also takes belief that the work is worth it. Hope isn't naive, it's fuel. It's what makes a man sign up for a night class at 40, or start going to the gym again, or reach out to a friend before it's too late. This isn't just a men's story, it's an American story. When men are healthy, connected, and supported, families are stronger, communities are stronger, and the country is stronger. So, here's the challenge. Don't wait for Washington or the headlines to fix this. Start where you are. Reach out to someone. Build something together. Speak up when it's uncomfortable. At Economic Crossroads, we believe real safety and stability come from trust, dignity, and freedom, not silence. And those are worth fighting for. Thanks so much for watching. If this resonated with you, hit like, share it, and subscribe. Together, we're building a space for people who think critically, ask real questions, and refuse to give up on what matters. See you next time right here